Hi everyone, and welcome to my review of the Audiosense DT600. Here's the box. I'll just run through quickly its unboxing, just so that we can see what it brings. But as usual, very much Audiosense style. Very nice flip open box. Inside, the IEMs come in this little pouch, which inside also brings a ton of tips, all sorts of tips. Okay, and it brings this fantastic carry case. I mean, this case is really something else. It's really nice, supposedly waterproof, all rubberized and everything. This particular unit brought an 80 ohm adapter, which was a gift. Has the cleaning tool, as you can see, and the cable is the usual Audiosense cable, which is this cable over here, okay, which I have swapped out for an XI NHS cable that you can see. The IEMs themselves are these babies, beautiful. I mean, the craftsmanship of Audiosense is really something else. I'm not saying that obviously there aren't better things. I'm sure there are, but it's a real pleasure to see how well they execute these resin 3D printed shells with all the the tubes and for the various drivers all printed out and everything. It's really something else. I mean, the DT300, which I have here, again, a thing of beauty, everything about them is really seriously very nice. Fit with my ears is perfect. It just sits beautifully. They super light, so non-fatiguing. Really very nice IEM. There's nothing really to flaw or to point as a flaw in that aspect. So packaging is top notch. Accessories wise, it's top notch. All the tips you can possibly imagine: wide bore, closed bore, short stub, everything. The whole 9 yards. Cleaning tool. The cable is a decent cable. It's an MMMCX connector. I've swapped it out because I just like this cable more. It just looks more beautiful. I mean, look at that. Look at that braiding. I mean, this thing is beautiful. And the IEMs themselves are a work of art as well, from the faceplate to the color choice to everything. A really beautiful IEM. In terms of the internals, I cannot confirm that the internals are the same as the DT300. This is a 6BA three-way system. The DT300, as you might recall, used 22.955 for the bass, a 29.689 for the mids, and a 300.95 for the highs. From what I was able to understand, these are basically the same units but custom to be dual. So there's two dual bass drivers, two dual mid-range drivers, two dual high frequency drivers. And they seem, at least visually, very similar to the aforementioned drivers of the DT300. On to what we want to know. What does it sound like? Well, let me just say this from the start. As was the case with the DT300, when you graph the DT600, you are somewhat left with a face of worry. And again, this goes to prove what I've said countless times. What we graph isn't what we hear. And many times, if we just go based on what we graph, we're going to have surprises, both positive and negative. And this is another case of that. If you think of the sound, or if you judge the sound based on the graph alone, you will be very disappointed, because when you stick these things on and you start listening to them, you say to yourself, oh my god, what is this? Having said that, the impedance adapter, be it a 30 ohm or an 80 ohm, because I've actually tried both of them, makes a tremendous difference in the sound signature and a tremendous difference in how the sound is put forward. The same thing happened with the DT300, mind you. I mean, the moment I put on the 30 ohm impedance adapter on this thing, the whole presentation just became just that little bit more of everything. That excessive warmness that was present disappeared. The mids opened up, the highs became more full of air. Everything just was beautiful. And the DT600 is no different. If initially by just putting them on it sounds okay but slightly darkish, the moment you put on the impedance adapter, it's a different beast altogether. Which begs the question if perhaps they actually shouldn't include the impedance adapter with the IEM from the get-go. I mean, honestly, I really think it wouldn't be that a bad idea. You can see by the, I'm trying to see if I can bring it in a little bit closer. You can see that they've actually used proper capacitors inside, not the normal SMD style. It's very difficult to focus, I apologize, but you can see there's some proper caps inside there. So quality of construction is again flawless. The sound, beautiful. I mean, it is really something else. As some of you might know, I don't like comparing single DDs with hybrids. I don't like comparing OBAs with single DDs or with hybrids. I like to maintain things on an equal basis. But having said that, I have to use some references. I have to use references that perhaps some of you might know, which will help better position and have an understanding of what the DT600 is about. And for this comparison, I've used the DT300 as I just mentioned, and I've used the Oxygen, the TANCHJIM Oxygen. For me, that's my favorite IEM. Okay, and that's the reference in terms of single DTs. It's been said by quite a few people, not myself, that this is superior to many single DDs costing way more. I mean, all you have to do is actually just listen to a few reviews, and I don't want to mention names, but Illumination was one of the names that came up, and this particular reviewer, and he's a respected reviewer, mind you, said that in his opinion, this is superior to the Illumination. So that's saying something. Personally, I've never heard the Illumination. I cannot attest to what he's saying, but what I can attest is that this is absolutely an amazing IEM. The Oxygen is something else. It's just something else. What is the sound signature, or what is the sound of the DT600 like? Let me show you a quick picture, because I guess that will give us a better understanding. Okay, DT600, where are we? There we go. Okay. All right, let me show you then. Okay, the blue line is the standard curve of the DT600, and as you can see, it's relatively fat. It's got some irregularity up top, and it seems to be dropping off very quickly after about 7K, and it's got that area there between 100 and 1K is a little bit too thick perhaps, and it's not that it sounds bad. It doesn't sound bad. It sounds good, but it's got a certain sound. Once you put on the 80 ohm adapter, it changes it completely. That whole area there between, you have a nice sub bass, which is very, very evident from the get-go. From the first time you hear it, you're very surprised by the quality of the bass. The bass is super textured, super deep. I mean, it's everything but BA in my opinion. And it just emphasizes more those qualities. Goes nice and flat up to about 1K, then starts gaining, and then the rest of the curve is acceptable. I mean, it stays within 4 dBs more or less, but it's relatively flat, and those peaks are not perceived. What there is an obvious improvement. And then again, obviously this is dependent on the coupler and its abilities and capabilities, but it's audible. You can hear it quite well. Is above the 8K area, while before it seemed to drop off very continuously. It maintains itself more, and you can feel there's more air. You can feel there's more sparkle. You can definitely feel there's more spaciousness. If there's one thing that really impressed me about the DT600 is it seems effortless. It seems like you're in a concert hall when you hear this IEM. That's the best I can actually describe it. So The curve, you could say, is kind of a V-ish type curve with relatively flat mid-range and high frequency. I don't consider there to be any real peaks or anything which are noticeably audible or that will affect sound in any way. Vocals are absolutely stunning, males and females. There's nothing that's recessed, in my opinion, nothing that's too forward, no sibilance whatsoever. Everything is just very, very well, cleanly executed, super detailed. I mean, the details are just something else. I'll be posting alongside this review a link to the music that I listen to, so that way we can have a better perception of what I'm talking about. But it's really very, very clean. It's one thing that will very much surprise you, is how clean the DT600s are. As for the soundstage and imaging capabilities, the same thing I think goes for the DT600 as went for the 300. Very wide soundstage, in my opinion, not matched by the depthness. Okay, imaging is spot on. I mean, imaging is fantastic, and that brings me to the oxygen. How does the DT600 compare to the oxygen? Well, the oxygen has an overall more analog kind of presentation. It's not it's a single DD, so you have this warmth to the presentation which just makes it's not better, it's just different. Because I mean, I've heard all BA sets, and I'm starting to hear more and more BA sets, and they all have a tendency of sounding cold, and the DT600 sounds everything but cold. It doesn't sound cold, it just sounds very clean, which I guess certain people could perceive as being cold, but no, it's very clean. This has more warmth. But what did surprise me about the DT600 was its imaging, soundstage, and detailed retrieval. For me, and for what I listen to, are on par with the Oxygen in more times than less. Let's put it that way. In more often, is it actually able to keep up with the Oxygen than it is not able to keep up with the Oxygen, and that, I think, in a nutshell, says a lot about the capabilities of the DT600 as compared to its younger brother, the DT300. It's again a notch up. If the DT100, when I heard it, I was very surprised by the fact that a single DD could actually have that amount of bass to start with, because that was definitely the start of the show, and mids that were excellent. The DT300 was a definite upgrade. It took that and it improved upon it substantially, and improved upon it with a price hike, which made it very interesting, because the DT100 is, in my opinion, overpriced. The DT600 does exactly the same thing. It again improves upon what the DT300 can do, and the price increase does not necessarily translate to what you actually are getting. By that I mean, you are getting more than what you actually are paying for in terms of the difference in price. While if the DT100 is priced at around $110, $115, then we have the DT300 priced at around $170, and this can be had to 210, 220. So the price difference between here, honestly, in my opinion, I would go straight away for the 600. That's my opinion. I think it's well worth the extra $40 to $60, because it is a superior IEM. It is. Just for the sake of comparison, I have here the graph of the DT300. Okay, there's the graph of the DT300. Okay, there's the graph of the DT300. The green line is the one we want to pay attention to, and you can see there's similarities between it and the graph of the DT600. Again, the green line is what we want to pay attention to, but it's above the 1.5K area that you see how much more linear or full or complete the 600 is as compared to the 300. The 300 has some valleys there. It's just lacking a little bit more. By no means does it mean that it's inferior. Oh wow, no, none of that. But the 600 is better. It is a better IM. And yeah, that's basically it. Hope you enjoyed this little take of mine on the DT600. I think it's a fantastic, honestly, I really think it's a fantastic IM. And once again, it's a pity that Audiosense seems to pass under the radar with yet another very good product. Well, at least in this reviewer's eyes. I mean, honestly, up to now, there hasn't been one product which I can really floor. The AQ0 was an amazing single DD, the DT100, 300, and another 600, all pretty good. Maybe the T100 was the only one that was, not as interesting. But hey, it's a cheap IM. It doesn't pretend to be anything else but what it is. And the TX15 as well, also a cheap, wide IM. You must take things with a grain of salt and not expect too much. But this is a beast that deserves way more than what it's getting. Anyway, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.